Welcome to the special town council meeting, Town of Cave Creek, Arizona, Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. The meeting is called to order. We have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Oggerton,
Present.
Councilmember Bunch, Councilmember Elkema,
Present.
Councilmember McGuire, Councilmember Rhodes, Vice Mayor Royer, Mayor Morris.
Present, we have a quorum. So at this point, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, Carrie, since you're the only person in the audience. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. The only agenda item today is council discussion, interviews, consideration, possible engagement of an executive recruitment firm to facilitate the recruitment process for town manager. And it's on here with the mayor, and there is public comment on this after we have completed. We have three applicants who will be here in 30-minute timeframes with a 10-minute break between, so we have two 10-minute breaks. The first one is SGR with JJ Peters.
Mr. Peters, are you online? Are you able to hear us? Or
Welcome,
Miss
Ms.
Peters,
Peters.
excuse me.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I think we were battling for turning on the video there. Sorry about that.
maybe you'd like to introduce yourselves so we know who's who.
Absolutely. I'm JJ Peters, and I'm SGR's President of Executive Recruitment.
And I am Marcia Reed, Senior Vice President with SGR.
Okay. Was the last name Reed or Reeds?
Reed, with two E's and a D, Reed.
Okay, so if you'd like to make an opening statement, we'll be happy to listen to that. Otherwise, we can go through the questions we prepared.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having us here today. We're honored to have the opportunity to speak with you about your next town manager search. And if you do select us, Marcia would be your recruiter and main point of contact throughout the search. We really appreciate this opportunity. And Marcia, I'd love for you to just take a couple minutes maybe to tell them a little bit about yourself and your background and experience.
Yes, thanks, JJ. Well, good afternoon to you all. I'm Marcia Reed. I have been in public service for over 38 years. I retired from the city of Chandler, Arizona as the city manager 2 years ago after spending 8 years in the Valley. But prior to that, I came up through the public works ranks. I've got a bachelor's in civil engineering and a master's in public administration. I worked for the city of Lubbock, Texas for 20 years, the Texas Department of Transportation for 10, and the city of Chandler for 8. And so loved being in the Valley, and hopefully if we're selected, we'll get to do that again.
Thank you. Okay, so the format here is we have the same set of questions for everyone. We believe you have a private, none of your competitors are listening in. We ask them not to. And so you can speak frankly. And we have a total of 3 different candidate firms that we're recruiting, that we're potentially hiring to recruit. And so if you have any questions about the process, now'd be a good time. Otherwise, I'll start with the questions.
I don't think so. That sounds great. Thanks so much.
Okay. The first one is how do you source and screen candidates?
So JJ, did you want to take the sourcing part, and then I'll talk about how I do the screening part?
Absolutely. So we have, in addition to Marcia, who would be your primary point of contact, we have a team that works behind the scenes that intimately understands the positions that we recruit for. And we have them supporting the marketing and research components of the process, as well as administrative support behind the scenes. But because of our local government experience and connections that we've curated over the last 20 plus years of business, we have over 43,000 opt-in subscribers across the nation to our weekly e-newsletter who want to know what SGR has to say and what we're doing to help support local governments meet the needs of their communities. Each of our searches is promoted in this weekly e-newsletter, and we also have over 5,800 people that are city and town management professionals who have requested to be notified of our searches for city and town manager positions that will be notified of this opportunity. And this communication is both to solicit high potential candidates and to encourage key local government professionals to share information with their professional circles in order to reach passive candidates. In fact, I just earlier this morning received a report and looked at the top sources for our candidates for our searches, and the top source was our job board. We also operate one of the largest public sector job boards in the nation, and the second source was our emails that candidates receive from us. So those were our top two sources. We certainly use a lot of other sources as well. Our on-staff social media expert will provide a comprehensive social media marketing campaign that includes custom-made graphics and distribution on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Our company page has over 15,000 followers on LinkedIn, and each of our recruiters work together to utilize their professional networks as well to reach prospective candidates for our searches. I mentioned our job board. We also have a database of hundreds of excellent candidates from previous searches that we've curated over the last number of years that we review and strategically utilize to notify of your opportunity. I should add, though, however, that we do not directly solicit any candidates we place for another job. And I think that's kind of a good starting point. Happy to answer any additional questions. I will add that we are proud of a number of partnerships that we have with organizations that exist to promote diversity and inclusion, including the League of Women in Government, the Local Government Hispanic Network, and the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. And in 2022, 32% of the candidates that we placed are female, and 20% indicated they are a person of color. So Marsha, I'll let you speak on anything that I missed.
Oh, okay. Well, you mentioned the screening as well. So if we were selected, I would want to come out, sit down with the town council, get a good understanding not only of your job description, because that's all easy in a technical form, but however, I want to find out what's the best fit for the organization. I've been to Cave Creek many times, and I am familiar with your current town manager. We served on MAG together when I was in Chandler. And so, but I would like to hear from you all what you're looking for and what would be the best fit in your organization. And so once I have all of that, I will work with our team, as JJ mentioned, to put together the brochure that will ultimately be part of your marketing plan. And then we will be ready to launch the position. As the position comes closer to closing, I'll start interviewing those candidates that I feel like are qualified for your position in order to have a better understanding of what you all told me you were looking for in terms of fit. I will tell you that we do not screen out any candidates. You will see them all. And I will tell you when we get to that point that I've actually hired off of every list that SGR has in terms of those rankings. So again, it'll be my interpretation, but they will all be before you for you to look at. I'm not sure if you have any other questions, but hopefully that'll give you an idea kind of how we go about the screening side of it.
Okay, for the council members online, I have this list of how many questions are there? 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 questions. And what I propose is I go through these, and then if there's something on there that you see, make a note. And then when I've gone through them all, everyone will have a chance to ask questions, presuming we have time, because we do have a hard stop on this. We'll go on to question number 2 then. What are the key management skills that a successful town manager needs to possess?
Yeah, so I will take that one. In my opinion, they need to be a good leader. They need to be an excellent communicator and an excellent listener, because if they are not willing and able to listen to what you all want to do in terms of policy that you want to have for your community, they're not going to be able to implement that. So in my opinion, those are three kind of key areas that any, in your case, town manager would need to have in order to be successful in that role.
Okay, great. And I would mention, you're probably gonna have about 3 minutes per question, just so you can gauge the timing and the length of your answer. Number 2A, I guess, is how will you identify these key skills in a candidate for Cave Creek Town Manager?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, as the candidate pool starts to come to a conclusion after all the marketing efforts, I will actually sit down. I usually do a Zoom interview with each of the candidates that I feel like are on paper qualified. In other words, if they meet your job description requirements in terms of bachelor's degrees or time of supervisory experience, things like that, I will have those ranked. I will talk to them based on the information I get from you in that first meeting with you all. I will gather about 3 or 4 questions that I will ask the candidates, and then I can better relay that information to you all in terms of what I call the fit of the person. Because as we all know, sometimes you've got an excellent candidate, but they're not a good fit for your organization for whatever reason. So we'll work together with you all to try to determine who that's going to be, and ultimately we'll provide all the information we can to help you get there with your decision.
If I can just add, we would also be looking at, the social media that's out there for candidates, what's in the press about them. And if there's anything of concern, Marcia would likely be having conversations with those candidates to understand their perspective on what is, out there in the press, because that's certainly going to be a concern for you all, but it's also going to be a concern for your citizens. And you're going to want to understand that before you're identifying candidates that you want to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, how will your firm acquire feedback from each council member in developing the recruitment information?
Yes, so if we're selected, I would like to have that point of contact, whether it's mayor or your current manager, whomever, the HR director, whomever that is, set a time to come out and sit down either as a group or individual, or sometimes when I go to councils, they want to do both. So, I'll be there for a full day, and however you want to do that, we can certainly talk individually to get some ideas that you may have. And then, if you want to have a council meeting, an executive session, we can have those discussions about what you're looking for in those candidates.
Very good, thank you. Next question is, how many candidates have you recruited in Arizona? How many of those recruitments were in communities similar to Cave Creek?
So JJ, I don't have the totals in front of me, but I do have the fact that I personally have done the town of Wickenburg. I did that recruitment last year. I feel like if you talk to the mayor and council of Wickenburg, they were very happy with the selected candidate. He is still there doing a great job for them, and from everything I hear on that. So I have done specifically that. I've also done a recruitment for the city of Mesa. And again, I was city manager in Chandler, and have worked in all aspects of hiring and firing as the city manager in that role for over 6 years.
Yes, I would just add, we've done a number of searches in Arizona. The ones that are most comparable to you all would be Camp Verde and Parker, in addition to Wickenburg. Those were all town manager searches. And, I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but it's pretty typical that we're typically getting anywhere from high 20 to 40 to 50 candidates, sometimes more for these positions. So I think those were the primary things you'd asked about. Did I miss anything that you were looking for us to provide in that?
No, well, not me. You talked about towns that are basically in our size, size range. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Next question is, what was your easiest recruitment and most difficult town manager recruitment for a small community similar to Cave Creek?
JJ, you want me to answer that specifically for me as a recruiter, or?
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I think we can do both. I would say that, you know, every search is unique and challenging in its own ways. And, you know, there can certainly be, you know, challenges that we're working through, but through our, you know, 20 plus years of experience and the expertise of our team in local government, we're always able to navigate those. I know Marcia had some challenges with the Wickenburg search that, you know, she had to work through that definitely ended on a very positive note. But there was a challenge with that, as I recall, about a citizenship, not a citizen, well, a residency requirement. Yes.
Ah,
Yeah, so with that, there have been the easy ones and the more difficult ones. I will tell you that the Valley of Texas, the city of Edinburgh, it's larger by a little bit, I believe, than Cave Creek, but not much. But anyway, the mayor was the former city manager, and they did everything behind the scenes. You know, we're here to be your partner. And it was a little bit difficult when the only contact I had really with the council until the end was through the city attorney, because really it is what you're looking for. And sometimes it gets, the message is not the same if it's not direct. It gets changed a little bit when going through others, but that was probably what made that one more difficult.
okay, thank you. You may have already answered this, but what made it easy and what made it difficult? I mean, maybe that would be a general question, is what makes a search easy, especially from the standpoint of the city, and what makes it difficult from the standpoint of the town, the things that how we interact.
Sure, I'll start, and I'm sure Marshall has some things to add. I think what makes it easy is when you have a council that works very well together, and there's not a lot of negative press out there. Those are some of the things that can make it harder. And you know, not that we don't certainly encounter those situations and are able to work through them, but it does mean that the recruiter is definitely, you know, having to have some conversations with candidates sometimes to encourage them more to apply for an opportunity when they may not be as inclined. Though many, you know, people that work in this field are, you know, very up for a challenge. And I think, you know, the other thing that really makes searches go smoothly and easily is communication, and making sure that there's a lot of communication and that the process keeps moving at an efficient pace. We are certainly doing everything we can on our end to help with that, but we recognize that with all of your busy schedules and sometimes your timing of when you need to have meetings, that sometimes can delay things. So, you know, Marshall will be communicating with you throughout the process, and once we have a brochure developed, firming up a timeline so that we can get dates on everyone's calendars and try as much as we can to stick to those dates. So I would say those are the main things that come to my mind. I'm sure Marcia has some things to add to that.
Really, JJ, I think you hit the nail on the head. It really is about, you know, what has been the image of the city or town in the past of those councils, because every city or town manager is looking at interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. And so they are reading everything, they're watching everything, they're watching your council meetings. They are very familiar with you before, you know, they want to make a move to your community. So, you know, if things are not looking well in those areas, that can sometimes cause pause for someone to apply.
Oh, that's a good insight. Thank you very much. Next question is, what contacts and resources do you or your company have in Arizona? That'll be a soft one for you.
Well, I'll start on that. Marcia obviously is one of those, given her experience in Chandler. We also have another recruiter that is local and still resides in Arizona. I often joke I'm actually based in Oregon, and if you're not familiar with SGR, Ron Hollifield, our CEO, spent many years in local government before he created SGR over 20 years ago. And I kid you not, the man knows more and has more connections in every state across the nation than most people know. I spent over 22 years in local government here in Oregon, and Ron definitely knows more people than I do. So I think that is one thing that, in fact, I'm having a conversation with another manager in Arizona that is getting ready to retire. We're very selective about who we bring onto our SGR team to recruit. We really strive to find those individuals that not only have stellar and impeccable careers in local government, but also have the passion to serve communities. And like Marcia said, we really consider ourselves an extension of your team and are very invested in helping you find the best candidate for your community.
Okay. Next question is, how do you think the executive leadership of Cave Creek differs from other communities? That might be a tough one.
So are you talking executive leadership in terms of the town mayor and council, or of staff?
That was my question.
Okay.
And it was answered that it was primarily the staff.
Okay. Yeah. So, just because I was in Arizona for a while, and I'm familiar with Cave Creek and some of your previous leadership, before your current town manager, I know that Cave Creek's had some ups and downs in terms of that town manager spot. And so, but as far as being different, it really kind of depends on the services you provide. I believe for Cave Creek, you've got maybe police, but you're in a fire district, if I remember right. And so, depends on what you're looking for in terms of, are you a full service community, or what is it that you're hoping to provide? And I think hopefully your leadership is built around what you need to serve. And so that to me is what makes communities different, is what expertise is needed for what areas that you deliver.
Okay, the next question is, what are the most important ways in which Cave Creek is different from other similar sized Arizona communities? And I think we're looking for there as regards to a potential candidate, as opposed to, we all know we have different populations and configurations, but from a recruiting standpoint, what is important with the ways that we're different from other similar sized communities in Arizona?
Well, certainly Cave Creek has its own unique, I'll call it culture for lack of a better term. It's a little bit being on the north side of the Phoenix metro area. You are up in the mountains a little bit more isolated, although not as much as fast as the area is growing. But certainly, there is some things I think that people are looking for candidates are looking for, that don't necessarily reside in big cities, so to speak. So I think similar to like Wickenburg, you've kind of got that cowboy town a little bit, and definitely a different culture of arts and those sorts of things than most of the rest of the valley. I know there are a lot of good restaurants and things like that as well in your community. And you're then, of course, on the north side of Scottsdale. So anyone that wants to get out and do the big nightlife, it's pretty close to the Scottsdale area anyway.
I would just add that, the stakeholder engagement in the interviews, being on site, we include the first of our not to exceed the first of 2 trips that are included in our not to exceed pricing in that. And that's where we really, take the time to get to know you all, get to know the organization better, and ask a lot of questions that are going to help us learn more than we already know. Because we really feel like, one of the most critical steps, if not the most critical step, is having really a comprehensive understanding of, your unique culture, needs, and desires of both, the organization, the council, and the community, so that we can, go out and find you the best candidates that are going to be the best match for that.
Okay, thank you. This is the final question, then we'll let anyone on council who has a specific question chime in. Do you have any additional information you'd like to provide to council for consideration? This is your chance to sum it up.
So
Absolutely. Well, I think we talked a little bit about some of the things that we believe set us apart as far as our connections and network, not only in the state of Arizona, but across the nation, that are really going to be able to help us reach out and oftentimes get candidates to consider an opportunity, even if they aren't actively looking. We spend a lot of resources and time, reaching out to our network, as well as sharing those opportunities to reach those passive candidates for you. And we also work hard to maintain the confidentiality of the process that candidates have come to trust with us, so that they know that they can consider those opportunities that they might not, because we are very careful about sharing names with you all too early in the process. Like Marcia said, there's a point in the process where we do share all the names with you, but earlier in the stages, until mutual interest has been established, we are very careful to not share those directly with you, so that we can hopefully generate candidates for you that are going to make it an extremely competitive pool, and hopefully a tough decision for you all to make. I think another thing that makes us different is our business model, compared to other firms that may require their recruiters to manage all the aspects and granular details of a search. I mentioned earlier that we have a team model in place whereby Marcia, as the recruiter, would be the team lead and the key team member who's interacting with you all as the client, as well as prospective candidates. But we have team members behind the scenes who are supporting all the various components and back end and more technical details of the process, to make sure that we have a timely and a quality process for you all. I think our candidate vetting is very thorough. Our media search process that we utilize has 2 phases to it and goes into a lot of detail, and hopefully, minimizes surprises for you all at the end of the process or late in the process. And let's see, gosh, what else?
So in addition to that, we also at SGR do all the reference checks for you all. And we'll provide you all with a actual report that is anonymous. And so that makes it easier for references not to just kind of, give the standard answers to the questions. So you'll see kind of a more realistic answers when you get that reference report. And we also have, I believe, a private investigative firm that does the criminal background check side of things, that we will make sure that in the end, as JJ mentioned earlier, the last thing we want to do is have a candidate that either causes issues for you with your community or the press, or for SGR as far as that goes. So anyway, we want to make sure they are truly vetted through, and I think SGR does a great job of that.
Okay, at this point, I'll open up to council. If they have questions.
Right.
Vice
Thank you,
Chair?
ladies. I appreciate all of your expertise very much. I do have a question related to the success of the placements that you've made. Do you have any statistics on the success rate of people that you have recruited and then the towns have hired, and how long they have worked or not worked? In other words, success or failure in those placements.
I don't have specific stats for you, but I can tell you, we do have a 12-month service guarantee. So if the selected candidate were to leave for any reason during that 12 months, we would redo the search for no additional professional fee. We have had a handful of clients take us up on that. It's usually not because the candidate wasn't a good match for the position. There have been situations where candidates have had to leave for, family situations unexpectedly, relocating back to different areas, that type of thing. But we have done a handful of searches. Overall, I would say we have a very good success rate with our placements, and it's pretty rare for us to have to honor that service guarantee.
So that service guarantee, is that from the date that they were placed or the date that they leave?
That the 12 months starts from their first day of employment. So whatever day they are on the job first, that starts that 12 month.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question. My name's Paul and I'm a council person here. How do you, once you've done all the screening and, all the stuff that goes with that, how do you prepare a candidate for an interview for the job? What do you look at, and how do you bring that out for the candidate?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. As we go through the process, there'll be numerous touch points, of course, with the candidates and with you all. Every organization's different. I've had a number of manager recruitments where the council wanted to have the community involved. I don't like to give answers to candidates necessarily. But if they ask me, about the community, about the council, that sort of thing, I'll be straightforward with them in terms of, what I see. Mainly the questions are, what are you looking for? I'll get questions sometimes about the residency requirements. I'll be honest if you have one or not, and we'll know that up front. But other than that, I mean, you're recruiting professionals. And if they are not capable of presenting themselves well in an interview process, it's probably not your good candidate anyway. So, you're looking for a true leader, communicator, someone that can make presentations if need be. So, there's not a lot of per se homework done in terms of getting them prepared. That is one thing that if they ask the questions, be glad to let them know the answers, but generally it's about how the process will happen.
I would agree. And I was anxious to see what Marcia's answer was going to be on that, because I had the exact same thought. I think, certainly it will become clear to you all which candidates do their homework, and we are going to encourage them to do their homework. But like Marcia said, we're not going to basically give them all the answers. That's part of what you're looking for in this type of a person and leader, is to, take the initiative to be able to do that research and to do that homework. And we're certainly there to support the candidates throughout the process, but we are not typically coaching them on those types of things.
Councilmember Ogden, anything to ask here?
No, Mr. Mayor, but thank you for asking. I just listened to the other questions, and it was a good mix between what the staff had put together and what the members had come up with. So thank you.
Okay, well, I guess that concludes it. I'm going to say you're a very impressive firm, and you present very, very well. I want to thank you for your time today and for being involved in this. Ms. Reed, Ms. Peters, good day to you, and best of luck in the future.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, it was our pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have 7 minutes before the next interview, so if anybody would like to take a break, this would be a good time. Hello, this is the Cave Creek Town Council. Look, Ms. Rentschler, are you online?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
Welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We have the council on hand here. We have a list of prepared questions. The other candidates are not on the line, and all the questions. Well, the basic questions are all the same. Although at the end of it, we'll have open it up to any council members for clarifying questions on anything that did not get answered. And with that, if you would, and you're with Anderson Associates, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Well, good afternoon to everyone. I am Heather Rentschler, and I am president and CEO of Ralph Anderson Associates. I've been with the firm since 1985. And I've been CEO since around 2000 or 2001. So it's a long time. So it's a woman-owned firm with a man's name. And that's important just because of the fact that the firm has a strong reputation. It's been around for 52 years. And I think that is a testament to the good work that we do for local government. I do a lot of work in Arizona. Although our office is in Northern California, I also have a residence in Maricopa County. So I'm very familiar with the area. I'm not there full time, but when I am working on assignments, I do have access to that. I've done a number of town manager and city manager searches. I outlined that in the brochure. So I am familiar working in Arizona with public records and open meeting laws and things of that nature. We do have a small boutique firm. So although I would be assisted by others on the team, they're more in a support area, such as administrative support or research staff. I would be the candidate that you would retain as your recruiter. So I would work for the council from start to finish. I would be the individual that develops the criteria and writes the brochure, works on the picture placement, and then does the strategy and outreach instructions so that we can get into the marketplace. I think this is an important time frame for you as a group to be thinking about being visible before the ICMA conference. That's the International City Managers Conference that will be taking place at the end of September, beginning of October in Austin. And many folks from Arizona and the West, as well as across the nation, attend that conference. So I will be there representing the firm and certainly other clients. And it would be great to make the statement that we are representing Cave Creek. And I would certainly be proud to be your recruiter of choice. And again, I would be the individual you would be working with from start to finish. I'm very protective of Arizona. I like to do a lot of the work.
If you can hear me, Ms. Rensler, we've lost the audio and the video for the last 45 seconds.
Okay, good.
Do you sure still online, Brian?
She said it's connectivity on her end.
Okay.
She's disconnected. Maybe she'll call back. Hopefully.
Rockland, California is just east of Sacramento,
East of Sacramento.
going up 80.
Mm.
Nothing?
Worst nightmare.
I'm sorry?
Teresa is regional
Teresa. Yeah.
from Ireland.
I wonder if she knows she's offline.
Nice weather in Rockland, so probably not.
Yeah. Jump into the bush.
There you are. We can see you, Miss Rentschler. Can you see us? Miss Rentschler, we can see you. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can now. I'm sorry. It looks like we lost connection there. So,
Yes, we still have 25 minutes, so we're still in very good shape to
okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you heard and what you didn't hear, so
very
I'll just leave it at
credentials.
that.
We did hear that. We know that from your resume. So why don't we jump into the questions we have for you, unless there's something that you really feel like you need to input to the process before we start.
No, other than I'll be in Arizona as of tomorrow, for part of next week, just so you know that in case you needed to see me on Monday, I could make that happen.
Oh,
So.
okay. And we have a series of questions here that, and there are a couple minutes per question, and we'd be being
Okay,
we do have a hard stop. And then at the end, we permit council to ask any follow-up questions, anything that might be of interest that wasn't covered with these canned questions that we're asking everybody. And this is private. Your competitors are not looking at what you're saying, so you do have full privacy as far as we know, as far as can be.
thank you.
Chinese may be listening in, but as far as we know, your competitors are not.
Okay.
The first question is, how do you source and screen candidates?
Yes, very good question. Well, again, the firm has been in operation for quite some time, as I mentioned, and I have done a number of recruitments in Arizona. As you know, I submitted that on our proposal. So I do have a network that's already out there that I would be reaching out to personally and letting them know about the opportunity. Many times candidates are not necessarily looking for a job. If they are looking, then they typically have gotten in touch with us, or I've seen their application and resume before. But what we do is we run kind of tandem. We will place advertisements in the various online publications so that they will know about the opening through those channels. We use social media to get to candidates. I attend conferences, like next week, I'll be California's League of Cities. The following week, I will be at ICMA in Texas. I'm always scouting for talent. And so that personal outreach and my network is what I bring to you. So I did the Avondale city manager search. I did Cottonwood city manager search. I did the Goodyear deputy city manager search. I did Oro Valley town manager search, an assistant town manager for Queen Creek. And I'm currently working with Scottsdale on an assistant city manager that has just launched this week. So that gives me a past network that I can tap into. And in addition to looking for candidates, I also ask for nominations and referrals through that same network.
So, Ms. Rentschler,
Uh-huh.
when you say you did the searches for Oro Valley and
Uh-huh.
does that mean that a candidate was placed?
Yes, yes. I was the recruiter that worked with the governing body. And I did all of the resume review and did the initial screening. I presented the recommendations and was in executive session with the town or city council. We went through the interviews together. We would do a first round via Zoom, and then I would be on site for the final interviews. And I was the main lead person on all of those. And those are successful placements. If you would like to get in touch with any of those councils or the city or town manager.
Thank you.
So-
One follow-up. Did
Mhm.
council and mayor ask you for your opinion on who should be placed, or did you leave that up to them?
Well, the approach I take is that you share with me early on what you want in a candidate, and we build that into the profile. So you're giving me a lot of liberty early on to use my judgment and for us to be aligned in terms of what you're looking for, and to make sure that we are together and that you have confidence in my judgment. So through that process, I am building a candidate pool that I share with you, and you can see all of the resumes, but I will put them into categories and give you my best opinion on who you should interview. I'm not going to weigh in on your choices once I bring you the candidates until you ask my opinion, but I want to give you the chance to see them, judge them, and maybe look at them in a couple of different ways. We'll have a Zoom interview. We would also have on-site interviews. I'm very frequently giving them an assignment to put together a presentation so I can see their presentation skills, how they organize their thoughts. I ask for sample reports. So all of that, I do put my own judgment in it, getting you what I think might be the top tier of candidates. But I want you as my client to actually make the opinion as a group, make the decision as a group, and I will overlay that with giving you my thoughts when I'm asked within that process.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the next question then. What are the key management skills that a successful town manager needs to possess?
Well, if I could just pick one, it would be ethical leadership. I know that's two words, but it's still one quality in my opinion. So ethical leadership is really something that I'm looking for with candidates. Now, if I expand beyond that, then once I know some of the things that you're interested in and some of the things that are driving you to even commit to being on the town council, then I can help to maybe evaluate that early on. For example, if you are very interested in someone's background coming up through financial management and making sure they have fiscal acumen to run an agency. If there's infrastructure issues and you want to put more emphasis on public works and water rights, and just being able to understand the economic and community development that comes with the growth that has happened in the region. So we build all that early on, and then it goes into the brochure, and I use that to kind of make I'm going to say dimensions of what I'm evaluating these candidates on. When I talk to them, I ask them, what was their budget oversight? How many staff did they have? What have been some of the planning and community development issues that they've dealt with? How have they worked and interacted with regional partners? What kind of personal aura do they have with stakeholders, the chambers, the business communities? I'm getting an assessment, and all of that information I pass to you when we have these private conversations. And if I have some concerns about some of those dimensions or qualifications, I am going to share with you that someone could not well articulate the subject matter that I'm speaking to. For example, if you say they must have Arizona experience, then I'm going to look for Arizona experience. And that's going to be one of the dimensions, but it's more on the experience side. If you want someone who has fiscal capabilities, capital projects, public works, understands legislative matters, we'll go through all of that together. But overall, I'm looking for leadership and management of resources. And resources to me are people and dollars. And that drives a lot of the decision making, whether or not you're running a town, you're running a city, or you're running a business operation. You have to understand people and dollars.
Very good. Thank you.
You're
Next
welcome.
is, how will you identify these key skills in candidates for Cave Creek Town Manager?
Well, first I look at them on paper. And I may have actually encouraged them to submit, so maybe I've seen them before. Maybe they were involved in one of the other searches and I've reached out to them. But I first look at them on paper and what am I seeing in the news and the internet and social media about that community that they've been in, or their involvement in certain issues. So I look at them on paper. I let you know who I'm interested in, but I do a preliminary video with those candidates so that I can collect more information. So I'll be able to walk through their career with you. I start with education. If there's any falsification, we typically will find it in the education. People say they have a master's, but they don't have a master's. I walk through their career and the transitions from job to job. I then talk to them about what are their strengths on the technical side. And then I talk to them their strengths on the people side, on their personal attributes. I talk about areas of growth and shortcomings. I talk to them about their management style with their own direct reports and engaging with the community, how they communicate with council. So I have a whole series of questions that I go through with the candidates that are in my top tier. so that I can better help you in your decision making. And the benefit of using Ralph Anderson and Associates and perhaps myself, Heather Rentschler, is that I am very familiar with the region and I can meet with you in person fairly frequently. And I'm happy to do that with notice because I'm either in California, Nevada, or Texas. That's kind of my circle. So there you go.
Very good. Thank you. The next question is, how will your firm acquire feedback from each council member in developing the recruitment information?
Okay, what I like to do, if it's okay with your legal counsel, is I do like to introduce myself individually to each of you so we can have a one-on-one conversation. I am not sharing information from council member to council member. I am just getting to know you. What do you want to see in that new town manager? And then, and I'm happy to arrange to do some of that in person with you. And we can work out those particulars rather than on video, but I can also do video. And then my job is to assimilate everything I've heard you say and do my appropriate research. And I will then come back to you with a draft brochure that hopefully hits the mark so that we can then go shopping for a new town manager. But if we have to change out pictures, change some wording, I'm happy to do that, but we do that as a group. There have been some of the projects I've worked on in Arizona where I've worked with a subset of the council, or there's other ones where I've worked with the entire council all the way through. And I'm open to either way you want to do that. But I take my direction from the council at the beginning and I build that recruitment brochure and the outreach strategy. We all agree on it. And if we don't agree on it, then we don't go to market until we tweak it so that you're all happy. You're all happy with the pictures. You like the color scheme. We've appropriately described your community and that ideal candidate. Once we have agreement on that, then we launch and the resumes all come back to me. If you would like to have electronic access to those resumes at the appropriate time, then I'll set up a shared file for you to do that. And then we're judging those candidates based on what we put in the brochure that we said we wanted. So it's like our shopping list. We now go shopping and then we want to make sure, did we get the bread, the milk, the eggs? Or is there something that we need to know that would be a growth area for that candidate, but we like the other dimensions that we see? So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, we are running a little bit short on time. I'll go now to the next question is, how many candidates have you recruited for in Arizona? How many of those recruitments were in communities similar to Cave Creek? I think you've answered the recruitment in Arizona. You've got an impressive list on your initial submission. So anything like to add to that?
No, I think you have that, and those have all been recent, and I'm very proud of the placements that I've done, and I would like nothing more than to represent Cave Creek. So
Thanks. One quick question. What happens with the candidate that may not make it? The one that you've placed in a town that for whatever reason doesn't work out?
are you saying placed in another town?
No, a candidate who you have recruited and and the town has hired in the town manager capacity.
Uh-huh.
For some reason it doesn't work out. Is
Oh,
there any kind of
So certainly, we do give the industry guarantee. So that is if someone is hired from my recruitment process, from Ralph Anderson Associates recruitment process, and that person does not work out in the first year, and you let that person go, I will come back in and redo that search for you. The only thing you would have to pay for would be the incurred expenses like re-advertising, but all of my time, all of my staff's time would be absorbed because it fell under our guarantee. Now, that's also why it behooves me to make sure people in the search are serious about relocating or taking the job and leaving their current position, and that I've made a good match. So it puts a lot of emphasis on me and my judgment skills. So
Okay, thank you.
you're
The next
welcome.
Is what was your easiest recruitment and most difficult town manager recruitment for a small community similar to Cave Creek?
Well, I can tell you that I've had a couple things that have been, very tough. Certainly a larger community. Avondale was really a difficult search for me because of the termination of the prior city manager and what we had to deal with some negative press associated with that. So that was a very, very tough search in that regard. I can tell you that Cottonwood was a smaller community, and the location ended up being a little bit more difficult to sell to candidates than I had thought because of the housing market and what was the shortage. I think your community will be a wonderful opportunity for folks to consider. So I don't see any real obstacles other than, just general housing costs having gone up the last few months or years in that regard. So nothing too problematic in the Arizona area that I'd like to, call out to you at all. So.
Okay, I'm going to skip the next question. You've basically answered it there, and we still have 3 or 4 to go, and we're running short of
Okay.
time. Briefly, what contacts and resources do you or your company have in Arizona?
Well, I think I have a lot of current and active clients. I will be working on the Phoenix Convention Center Executive Director search. So I've just been retained for that. I mentioned to you that I will, and I'm currently under contract to do Scottsdale Assistant City Manager. So I've done a number of projects for Jim Thompson, the city manager in Scottsdale. He has hired me a number of times. I've done a few things for Goodyear, and I've only done the town manager in Oro Valley. Queen Creek, I just recently did their assistant, who has a focus on economic development. I did the general manager at Sun City West as well. I did that in 2019. Maricopa County's been a client previously before, although I didn't do anything in the last couple years. I used to do a lot of work out at the airport as well. So I know the region and I know it well. And I continue to have a lot of opportunities because people know that I do good work and that I have a familiarity, and I have invested in Arizona personally. So there's some benefit for me being there to be active and deliver good work and have good placements.
We're down to the last 5 or 10 minutes, so I think we've talked about our question 7, which you don't see, but what are the most important ways in which Cave Creek is different from other similarly sized Arizona communities?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that your proximity to the region makes it very appealing as a residential community, and having a wider sphere that you can have a lot more access to different communities. You have a variety of housing stock, which I think is certainly very good in that regard. Good freeway access. You have certainly, I think, a reputation of being a positive, safe environment. So I think there's a lot of positives. I don't know what would be as unique other than I see stability with your town manager having been there a long time, having come up through an internal placement, as I understand it, having been in a different role. So I see stability, and I don't often read about political turmoil or anything in Cave Creek that would cause me any concern. So I think you are a welcoming community and something that will be very appealing to individuals. So.
Okay, we have one last question, and then we'll open up to anything that the council would like to ask. And for you, this is an open-ended question. Any additional information you would like to provide to council for consideration?
No, I think I've certainly made my statement to you, and I'll leave it at that. You know that I spend a lot of time in that general area, and I like taking work in Arizona and representing Arizona candidates or entities. And so I'd be very pleased to represent you should you choose me to do that. And again, my desire would be to meet with each of you individually, just so I could get to know you, but then we would come back together as a group, and I treat that more as a workshop. We're in this together. We both have the same goal. We want a successful placement, not only for you, but for your community, for your staff. And I'm very open to designing and tailoring a process that works for you. And I know certainly at the back end, we will have to declare publicly those candidates that are in your final running. That always makes it a bit complicated for those folks that are still employed as well. So thank you for your time today.
Okay, and just before you leave, does council have any final question they'd like to put forward?
I do not.
Well, Ms. Rensler, I think you've answered all our questions so well. I think and your Arizona connections are very impressive. So I'd like to thank you for a very, very good presentation. And
okay, thank you very much. And I can be there as soon as Monday if you are ready to go. So
okay. Well,
okay.
We wish you the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye now.
Okay, so the next candidate should be on at 3:20, so we have another eight minutes to take a break. Would you pronounce your last name for us?
Hi, yeah, I'm Evelyn Racette, Racette.
Okay. Thank you, Evelyn. We did have a meeting with some of your other members of your firm and
Oh, you did?
Bridge Group and Mercer. Well, not on this subject, on another.
Oh, okay. Yes, on the strategic planning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Thank
And
you.
the way we'd like to proceed is we'll have a number of questions for you. And
Excellent.
we have 30 minutes. So,
Okay.
you know, the answers, of course, answer in full because you can always economize on another question if you think one is more important than the other.
Okay.
And then at the end, we will see if council has any questions for you, any other follow-up questions.
Sounds great.
Okay. With that, I'll proceed with the first one. First of all, did you want to make an initial statement or introduce yourself or anything? Please go
Sure,
ahead.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm Evie Reset. I am with Mercer Group's Associates. And we are just really thankful to be here today, grateful to be here. We know what a unique and wonderful community Cave Creek is. I'm actually in the Valley. Mike is in Tucson and Joe is in Northern Arizona. And one thing that I think is really important for us is that we have a heart for communities like Cave Creek that are a little bit smaller, but need really great leadership. We believe all cities need great leadership, but we really believe that's true for smaller communities as well. So we have a heart for finding the right fit for you. And like I said, we're really excited to be here. I served as a city manager in Arizona, as did Mike, as did Joe. So we have experience in Arizona. We know what it takes to be successful as a manager in Arizona. And so we want to make sure we find you the best candidate.
Okay, well, I'll proceed with the first question then
Okay.
and that is, how do you source and screen candidates?
That's a great question. So we have a multifaceted approach here. So our personal networks are a great way that we source some candidates. So we say, oh, you know, we were very impressed by this person the last time we met with them, or I saw this person present, or so we will use our own personal network. That's one way we source candidates. We also source candidates through things like LinkedIn or Indeed. And through ICMA. So we kind of have a multifaceted approach that we look at them. And then when we screen candidates, there's actually a pretty unique approach that we use. We have an interview process. We have some questions that they have to answer, like a survey question. So we might ask some questions about their leadership styles or anything like that, and they'll have to answer those. We'll do a one-on-one, or we'll do an interview with them, and then we'll also have them like fill out those questionnaires, look at those questionnaires, make sure everything's good there. And then on like the background side of things, we do a screening with like we'll do a comprehensive Google search in addition to a background check, and then we'll also do social media searches. And we've found that to be really successful so that there's no surprises. You know exactly what you're getting. And so it would pull up articles. For example, if someone has experience being a town manager somewhere else, it would pull up, we would be able to pull up some articles, make sure there's no red flags out there, and that you're getting the best candidate. So it takes an intense amount of work. That's why we have a team like we do. We all have some unique specialties that we can bring to the table, but we know that we can produce excellent candidates for you to choose from for your next town manager.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what are key management skills that a successful town manager needs to possess?
Well, first and foremost, communication with people is an incredible skill that managers need to have. They need to be able to communicate not only with the public is incredibly important, but also with the mayor and town council. They really are working for the mayor and town council. And so in this case, they need to be able to communicate with you well. And so that might mean they need to be able to write you emails, or they might need to be able to take phone calls, but really communicating with you well is important. But they also have to be able to lead their staff and to communicate well with their staff. So once you pass a policy, they need to be able to communicate that policy to your staff and make sure that it's implemented at the highest level so that it's successful for you. And so really, I think of the city manager position almost as, or a town manager position as a conduit that really has to be the communication bar between all levels of staff, of council and mayor, but also the constituents as well. Another key thing I think is really important for managers to have is financial chops. They need to be able to understand budgeting, understand the sales revenue. They need to be able to forecast to know, okay, what kind of money might be coming in and how are we going to be able to lay out capital expenses in the next coming years? Are there grants that are available? And so I think that budgeting piece is a really important piece for local governments, especially right now when the price of inflation, like price of goods has really increased with inflation. Another one I think is incredibly important is problem solving and critical thinking. There's no right way to do something, and sometimes it takes, well, there are right ways to do something when things are ethically right and wrong, and I'll talk about that. I think that's important too. But I think a nice problem solving and critical thinking approach to problems that come up in the city are incredibly important. Cave Creek is such a fun place to be. It's beautiful. It's got this nice Wild West atmosphere. But what happens when a major development comes in and we have to figure out, okay, how do we make sure we have the character of Cave Creek? How do we make sure that we've got plans for development that keep that intact? And sometimes that takes problem solving that isn't necessarily like a checklist, right? So multifaceted problem solving approach is really important. That's creative, that's unique, and that really fits your needs and your desires as a council. And then the last thing I really think they need is strong ethical foundation. And this is the most important. We don't want them to be wavering. We want them to be a beacon of light. We want Cave Creek to be a beacon of great public service. We don't want people questioning government or local government. And so their actions need to be upright. And we need to make sure that ethics piece is absolutely there.
Very good. Thank you. And how will you identify these key skills in candidates for Cave Creek Town Manager?
Yeah, I think that really starts out when we look at their applications and start screening their questionnaires. So we'll look at their applications and we'll say, okay, this person has experience, and while they've had these accomplishments, and then let's ask them about that later. So sometimes we get applications in or resumes in that really don't have any experience for local government. And so they might have been a real estate agent or something else. And we'll say, that doesn't really fit with experience. And like, we can screen that out pretty quickly. But then other times we get applications that are great applications. But we really want to go deeper than just like the letter and the cover letter and the resume. And so that's where that questionnaire comes in. So we'll draft those questions. We'll make sure the council sees those questions, so the reflections of the council's goals, values as well, and then look for those values as they really come forth, and look at those questions. That a lot of stuff comes through those questions that you wouldn't necessarily expect. They're questions that candidates have to think hard about, and so they're not canned answers. They're something that they've had to really reflect on. I think you can start to see those values there, and then you can further push further on those values when you're starting to interview them, talk with them, find out their references, talk to their references, and ultimately have them interview with the council. I should also ask, is there any values in particular that you're looking for?
Yeah, we'll have a bunch, probably not the time yet to get to that, but yeah, I mean, I think we've all got opinions on what an ideal candidate would look like. Of course,
Sure.
it's gonna fit all
And
that.
I think it's important that that's reflected from our search too. So it's not just like what I think qualities make a good manager. It's also what you guys want, what you think would make a good manager in Cave Creek, because you know it better than anyone else. You're the ones that the people have elected.
Okay, next question is, how will your firm acquire feedback from each council member in developing the recruitment information?
Yeah, so initially what Mike and Joe and I will do is we'll get together with you, we'll talk about your values. I think that's step one in the proposal, when we say, okay, what values might you have? We can have a questionnaire that you'll fill out as well to say, okay, these are the things that we're looking at, and then have conversations as well with your liaison from the city or from the town as well. So that's actually a process that's built into our proposal as well. So we want to know what you're looking for up front. And so we'll have that communication with you up front. And then after that, I should also say, like, we have a Dropbox, and so we'll put files in the Dropbox, and those will be available to the town clerk or whoever's looking at those as well. The HR director, the town clerk, they'll be looking at those. So they'll have access to those too, so in real time. So we'll have some transparency, so you can see how many applications are coming in and what type of applications that you're looking at.
Okay. The next one is, how many candidates have you recruited for in Arizona, and how many of those recruitments were in communities similar to Cave Creek?
Yeah, that's a great question. So prior to Mercer Group, when I was city manager, I didn't recruit for the city manager position, but I did recruit from a number of department director positions, as did Mike when he was in Tucson and in Sedona. And so while I don't have experience recruiting in Arizona, I do have experience recruiting in small communities internally, but then also externally, I have, and Mike as well has experience in smaller communities. Like I did one in Minnesota that was a community under 10,000. Joe Jarvis has done some in New Mexico as well. And so, like I said, small communities are our specialty. We haven't done one in Arizona, but we have done them elsewhere.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question about the, you mentioned there are 4 names in here. There's your name, there's Linda Pillow, and there's Joe Jarvis. And of course, there's Mike.
Yep.
How does this all break down? I'm a little confused as to who's doing what.
Sure. So Mike will be leading point on all of this. So he will be your point of contact with the town of Cave Creek. And then what Mike will do is say, hey, I want to work with you guys on interviews, or can you research these counts or these members that have applied? Can you review these resumes? Ultimately, we are going to look and choose the finalists or semifinalists together. So we're going to be reviewing that. So one thing that really works well in executive recruiting for us, for Mercer Group, is it's not just one person looking at those resumes and making those decisions. It's really 3, in this case 4 of us. Linda does excellent background searches and work for us. And I think that would be her avenue here. While Mike, Joe, and I would really be looking at the resumes, looking at the questionnaires, scheduling the interviews, and working through that. So that's how that works. So we really function as a team the whole time, making sure that it's not just one person's opinion, that we're looking at it from multiple levels, asking different questions. So we all bring unique perspectives on things.
Okay. What was your easiest recruitment and most difficult town manager recruitment for a small community similar to Cave Creek?
Okay, so one of my most difficult recruitments was actually not for a city manager position, but a police chief position in Minnesota. And the reason I say that is this was right in the wake of George Floyd in Minnesota, after it had happened in Minnesota. And that was actually a small community of about 8,000 people. And that was difficult finding applicants for that, especially with the atmosphere around policing at the time. Like, people didn't want to be really anywhere near that, or like candidates didn't really want to be around that. So that was really difficult. And so we had to still find good candidates for that. And the way we did that was make sure that we had an opportunity to really talk about the city that we were recruiting for, and make sure that they understood that this was a good community, that this was a community that really supported policing and really needed good leadership there. So that was probably the toughest one I've been on. One of the easier ones that I've been on is actually in Bellevue, Washington. We've recruited a lot. I've worked on those with Mike as well, and those run pretty easily because Bellevue, their city manager and their council have trusted us in the past, and so we've recruited a number of positions for those over the years, and so those. We've got a pretty great system down. People want to work in Bellevue, Washington, because it's just ran so well. And I don't really have any hesitation with Cave Creek. I think Cave Creek is such a great place. It's beautiful. You've got the regional park. You've got really a wonderful community with like a great downtown. And I think you're going to have a great opportunity in recruiting people because people want to be there. So I don't anticipate any issues or hurdles like I had in Minnesota.
Okay, well, that you kind of answered the next question, so I'll move on.
Oh, okay.
What contacts and resources do you and your company have in Arizona?
Yeah, so not just in Arizona, but we also have extensive contacts outside of Arizona. Within Arizona, we are all members of the Arizona City Managers Association, so we have those contacts. I am also a professor at Grand Canyon University, and so that allows me to have some industry contacts as well in local government, but also in private sector as well. So I also have the opportunity to meet with a lot of different entities. So we actually work a lot with the state, or I can work with the state through my position as professor. So I actually have a pretty extensive network in Arizona, and Mike does as well. So Mike has served in the past as a, I can't remember, it's like a senior leader or senior advisor in the past with ICMA, and so his territory was Arizona, and so he would go and work with city managers all across Arizona, make sure they had the resources to do their job and to be successful in that capacity. And then Joe, he is not just in the network in Arizona, but heavily invested in New Mexico because Eager, where he was working, is so closely associated with New Mexico as well. And then our firm, Mercer Group, we have consultants all over the nation, and often what happens is we might say something like, hey, we are looking for this candidate that has these values or these skills, and they might help us either send out the recruitment to someone else or that they know within their network. So for example, if you can say, hey, I've got this position in Cave Creek that's available. Do you have anyone in your network that has ties to Arizona that might be interested in applying? And they will send that brochure out as well. So we have pretty extensive networks and different ways to network. We want to make sure that we're modeling that they're getting the right candidate for you, and we'll work really, really hard at that.
Okay. Next question is, how do you think the executive leadership of Cave Creek differs from other communities? You might interpret that in terms of with the likelihood with the kind of candidates that we're going to that you can attract with the leadership that we have here in Cave Creek.
So Cave Creek is a smaller community, and so the city manager or the town manager, I keep saying city because when I was in Wisconsin as a city manager, it didn't matter the size of community. But when I was in Pine Top Lakeside, I was a town manager. So the town manager in that position is going to do a lot different functions than a town manager in a large or a city manager in a larger community. And that's because there's less staff. And so the executive in this case, the manager in this case is going to have more skills. Actually, they're going to have more knowledge of what's happening in all of the departments because they don't necessarily have as many deputies or as many department directors for things. And so they need to be really sound in all areas, not just relying on the people below them. And I think that leadership is incredibly important there. So their qualities and their ability to provide direction to their staff has to be top notch. And so I do think that's what's different about a small community. I also think what's different about a small community is going to the grocery store being town manager. People will recognize you, people will talk to you, people will tell you what's up. And with a larger city, you are kind of a little bit more invisible. People aren't going to recognize you as much at a grocery store. So I think that's a unique perspective that the town manager is going to have. And that also happens with you as council members and as the mayor. You are also singled out more, and so there is more connection to your constituents, I think, in a smaller community. And so that connection with constituents is going to get back to you, but you're going to want to talk with your your city manager or your town manager, excuse me, your town manager more about those issues. And so the issues aren't smaller that the town manager will be dealing with. The issues are not smaller or less significant than in a larger community. They are incredibly important, and sometimes they go under the microscope more. And so I think that is what we're going to be looking for in a manager position is, can they handle the heat? Can they handle being in a small community, tight-knit community with people that are going to be asking questions and expect results?
Okay. What are the most important ways in which Cave Creek is different from other similarly sized Arizona communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are situated right on the edge of Phoenix and Paradise Valley, and that makes you different, right? So you're right next to a major city. That's much different than when I was in Pine Top Lakeside and we were a community way out in the middle of nowhere where people cooled off in the summer. So that makes you a lot different because the amenities that you have with a large community right next door makes you different, and it makes the issues that that you have different. So for example, development is a big key issue that's different. You might have issues, not issues, I guess issues isn't a great word, but you might have to work through things with MAG, like Maricopa Planning Coalitions or other entities, because you're sort of still part of the valley, yet you're still your own municipality that's small. Whereas when we were like in smaller communities, say, for example, Pine Top Lakeside or Eager or even Sedona, they're kind of out there on their own. And here being a suburb of Phoenix, like, or a bedroom community of Phoenix, you really, that really changes the way you interact with the community around you as well.
Okay. Last question, and then we will go to council questions is, do you have any additional information you'd like to provide to council for consideration?
Yeah, so I want to make sure we really talk about the R analysis, the approach, results, and experience. And that's one of our key hallmarks of our recruitment process. It's beyond the traditional methods. And we use this approach, results, experience, analysis to make sure that the candidates are quality candidates for you. So we evaluate the candidates' leadership traits and their ability to provide direction and how they can inspire others or navigate those complex situations effectively. We look at their management. We make sure that their ability to, that they can focus on their capacity to oversee their employees and innovate within the organization. And we make sure their communication skills are on top through that. So we have to make sure that people communicate and that the candidates are able to communicate and collaborate with you and others that you might be working with, like the county or like other municipalities. And then finally, we have to make sure that they're a great fit with the town of Cave Creek. So we want candidates that align with your culture. We want someone to stay there for the long term. And we want to make sure that the values and goals of Cave Creek are reflected. So we're really working to aim to find candidates whose experiences and approaches match the needs of your organization. And this analysis really increases the likelihood of finding a town manager who does not only possess the necessary competencies, but also integrates seamlessly with Cave Creek's culture and community.
Okay, well, thank you. So I'll open at this time to council. Council has questions. Dusty?
So when you do your questionnaires, now are those questionnaires done in person? Are they done individually? Or are they done as a group? How do you do that with questionnaires for the council to get an idea of what we're looking for?
Oh, for your questions or for the questions that I'm asking the candidates on the questionnaires?
The question, how do you determine what it is we're looking for?
Oh, so what we'll do up front is we'll do a survey with council, and we're going to ask you questions on things that are priorities. And I know like Mike is doing the strategic planning with you, so he's going to already have a little bit of that. But we might also ask you, okay, what qualities are important to you and so on. So we'll have a questionnaire that we give to you as the council members that you'll return to us in a Google form, and then we'll present you the final questionnaire. So you're going to be able to fill out this Google form or survey. I think it's a Survey Monkey actually. So it's a survey that you can fill out, write in your questions that you might want to have, or values or traits that you have for the characteristics that you want to see in the next town manager. And then we'll use that to formulate our questions that will ultimately be the questionnaire that the candidate answers.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Augerton, anything you'd like to ask?
No, but thanks for asking, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
Others locally here?
I have one quick question. How long do you think a town manager lasts once we place him? Is there an average number of years?
There is. That's a great question. So the average tenure of a town manager or city manager is somewhere between 3 and 7 years. We would like to see that on the higher end, if not longer, of the spectrum. But of course, that's just the average. And in this position, lots of things can happen with council member changes or managers that just aren't making it early on in their tenure. But yeah, somewhere between 3 and 7 years. I can't give you an exact answer, but I also know that if you find a good fit and that town council and that town manager is happy and they're compensated well and they are doing meaningful work, that they can stay for a long time.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Very impressive.
Thank you.
I just have to tell you though, that I, when going to high school at Alhambra, right down the road, I used to walk by Grand Canyon every school.
Yeah, a little different now, huh?
Just a little.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a privilege to work there. I really enjoy the students, and yeah, it gives me a lot of energy, and it's such a great way to connect with local government. We do projects with local government very frequently and try to problem solve on behalf of the class, and so that's really fun. So yeah, if Cave Creek ever has a need for that, we're happy to do that too.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Very impressive, and wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, there is public comment on these candidates. Do we have any requests for?
We have no public speakers, Mayor.
No public speakers, okay. At that point, I'll open this up to council for a motion or comments or whatever they'd like to do.
Well, I think that we were fortunate to have 3 very qualified candidates and firms. They're all well qualified. There's no other way to say it. I mean, it's not an easy decision. I think that the Bridge Group / Mercer Group is the best fit for us. I think they have the best grasp of a small town and how our managers function is different than other towns. She was pretty articulate in that respect. I think it showed that they have a sensitivity to the type of manager that we need to succeed Carrie, and my vote would go to the Bridge Group.
So I agree with Bob that we really heard some good presentations this afternoon. And I really appreciated the Ralph Anderson presentation simply because Heather, the presenter, gave us really specific examples of how she digs into a candidate's abilities, all the way down to small things like show me a presentation or give me a report or how would you solve this? She also suggested that they look at best practices around and bring that to the conversation. And I like the Bridge Group, Mercer, as well. It was disappointing to me to hear that they haven't done things in Arizona in terms of placement. So for me, I'd like to hear a little more conversation from the rest of the council here between those two. The SGR group didn't float my boat, so to speak.
Okay. Other comments? Councilmember Ogden, you want to weigh in on this?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Well, we had the opportunity to look through the submitted materials last time we got together and chatted, and we kind of went through the process and decided which ones didn't seem upfront to be a fit for the community, and then which ones could be a potential asset for the council to review. And we were very lucky. The work that Teresa did really gave us a full portfolio of individuals and organizations to consider. When that process was concluded, we came up with a list of the 3 we have today. And I concur with the vice chair, certainly, that all 3 groups were highly professional and competent and presented a great product. For whatever reason, a lot of this is personal opinion, perhaps, or analysis done by us individually that might be different than others on the council. I was, even with the service interruption on the internet, I was really impressed with Ralph Anderson and the sophistication level of the woman who presented and the representative of the company just seemed to be at a wavelength that was not formulaic, but relationship based and experienced in such sophisticated acumen that it was like consulting an attorney looking for advice, or even a medical professional, that type of thing. It just felt like we would get the subtlety of analysis that would not be off the shelf or consultant based. It would be somebody who has done this on a very personalized basis. With the Bridge Group, the town already fortunately has a great relationship with them with the strategic plan redo. So I don't know if it divides attention on their resources to have 2 projects going at once for the town, or if they would be in conflict or not. I don't have any insight to offer on that. But Mr. Mayor, in direct answer to your question, I think I just favored the presentation and the product of the Ralph Anderson Company.
Okay. Councilmember Rhodes.
I thought they were all 3 excellent presentations. I'm an inveterate watcher of body language, and there were a couple of questions that we asked SGR and Bridge Group that, just watching the body language, a little bit of nervousness. I thought Heather Rentschler did a really, really fine job after all that technical problem. She got back on and she just kept on going, and that probably impressed me more than just about anything else. I don't think we could go wrong with any one of the 3, but I just thought, in spite of the technical difficulties, that Heather probably did the best job presenting. And I like the fact that she's done a lot of stuff in Arizona. And having been to Cottonwood multiple times, I could imagine it's difficult to get somebody in there.
Hey, I think I agree that they were all presented very well. I think they could all do a good job, but I think there was one company that stood out more for the personnel than anything else, and that was Miss Rentschler from Anderson. I just thought her energy, her process, experience, Arizona, all the Arizona jobs that she's placed, I just thought she was head and shoulders. And the Bridge Group, I'm still not sure who we're going to work with. There's so many of them, and
She said it would be Mike. He would be the point of contact.
so I guess I'm leaning towards Anderson, although I think all 3 were very capable groups, and I really appreciate them doing that. I also want to compliment staff on organizing this.
Very well.
I don't know if anybody can see it, but I've got all kinds of papers and things up here, and there's a lot of work done with questions and timing. The timing is all down. Brian did a great job in the background, and Carrie flew all night long to be here.
Yeah.
Bob, if I may, I'd really like to hear what Catherine, what you were thinking about with the Bridge Group. That's important to me to hear what you.
With the Bridge Group, I took some notes here. I thought that she hit all the marks on what we need in a successful town manager. They all said communication, which is important, obviously. But she elaborated that it's not only with the community or the mayor and council, but also with staff. So this person that we end up hiring absolutely has to be able to relate to all sorts of different segments, and that's critical. I like the fact that she hit on somebody who needs financial chops, that our budgeting piece is critical, as you well know. And so they would be looking for somebody who specifically is skilled in that area. And problem solving and critical thinking is essential, and having a strong ethical foundation, wanting to Cave Creek to be a beacon of light.
I love that.
Yeah, and so I thought she hit all the marks.
Thanks.
Okay. With that, if everyone has spoken, I guess we're waiting for someone to step forward and make a motion. And let me just say that the motion, the form of the motion, and I have buried that piece of paper somewhere.
It's on page 404.
Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. For the amount up to $30,000 would cover any of the three candidates. So I think that whoever makes the motion should have $30,000 in the last blank. And then, of course, the second blank in there ought to be the company the firm that you think we should hire. So does somebody want to make a motion?
On the back page? Okay.
Well,
I don't have the language, so it's great that. So I'll go ahead, or are you going to do it, Catherine?
Oh, no, you can go ahead. Make one last remark. And
Please.
somebody said that the Bridge Group, I think it was you, Dusty, might be conflicted because they're already doing work with us. Was that you? Not you? Someone.
That was me, Vice Chair.
Not you, Tom.
Yeah.
Contrary to that, I think it could be complementary because they're already studying us to a great length. And so they are already doing their research on this town and already beginning an in-depth understanding of the culture of this community. So I think rather than it being a disservice, it could be much to our benefit.
Any other comments?
we'll have one more chance for comments after we make the motion.
Okay, so I'll make the motion then. I move that we engage with the Ralph Anderson Group for an executive search for a town manager. Motion to contract with them and facilitate the recruitment process for a town manager for an amount up to $30,000.
Okay. There a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Councilmember Algerton. So now you had the motion. So this is our last set of comments before we vote.
Okay. So, and my feelings are that I heard detail with the Anderson Group that's really important to us, I think, as a team and to the town moving forward. And I appreciated that we could hear a level of engagement with the principal. There was no equivocation on who was going to do the work. She said, "I'm going to do it, and I will come back to you." She said that often, maybe too often, but I really appreciated that detail.
Tom, you had the second?
Mr. Mayor, I don't think I have anything else to add. I just felt like the process would be protected by the second firm, the Ralph Anderson firm, in terms of the normal challenges for candidate selection and and the caliber of vetting that needs to take place on so many different criteria, just so we don't make a mistake. I think, unless somebody up there knows this to be different, I think this is the first time that the town has done this to this level of thoroughness. I sat through 3 removals of managers in my previous time on the council, and we had a process each time different, but I don't think that we spent as much council and staff time and research on it as it has been currently done. So I think that's a huge mark of progress from earlier times.
Thank you. Councilman Rhodes.
So I wanted to thank you and the vice mayor and the town manager and the town clerk, and of course, the acting town clerk, for putting together a really good process to hire a surgeon. I mean, I don't think we could go wrong with any one of the 3. And I just think this is a really good process that we follow. This is one of the better processes I've seen anybody follow as far as trying to get a senior manager in place. I've been through a lot of senior manager hirings and firings in private industry, and this is one of the better organized ones I've seen.
Vice Mayor.
Well, obviously, I'm not in complete agreement with the rest of you, but that doesn't mean that I won't vote in favor of them. I think that they're very, SGR is a very competent firm.
Well, SGR was the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anderson was the motion.
Right, Anderson is a very competent firm. There's no doubt that Heather could very well do the job. I will go along with it because I would like to see us united in this front. And this, frankly, is the easy part. The hard part will be interviewing the candidates and then deciding the best one for our town. And so I'm happy to go along with your choice.
Okay. It's very gracious of you, and I certainly hope that our town clerk is still listening online, and she can stay awake that late in Ireland, or it's probably 2 a.m. or something back there. But we can compliment her when she returns. I think everything's been said, and I love the Bridge Group. I think they're wonderful. And obviously, I thought Heather Rensler did an absolute magnificent job explaining it. So with that is financial. So I guess we're ready for a vote.
Councilmember Algerton,
Aye.
Councilmember Elkema,
Aye.
Councilmember Rhodes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Royer,
Yes.
and Mayor Morris.
Aye. So
Pass
motion
5-0.
passes. We have
Motion to adjourn.
okay.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes.
I think you should have Teresa turn her microphone on to see if we hear any drunken sea shanties in the background. Chairs being thrown, bottles being broken. She needs to prove that she's actually at this conference with authentic Irish sounds.
Kudos to her for tuning in.
I think that's a joke. Old
No, I'm kidding, but
Hi.
Aye.
meeting adjourned. Thank you.